Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Some of you guys have been asking for a fruit tree update, a little bit of an update on how these trees are doing. Now, I've got trees that are 3, 2, and 1 year old in here. And so I'm going to kind of give you a walkthrough on how they're doing, the way I'm planting these trees to have really good success rates that I do here. And then at the same time, kind of the way I'm protecting them. How am I planting these trees as far as the kit that I'm using, and then at the same time why I'm planting them in the specific location. So first and foremost, I've got a variety of different fruit trees here. I've got everything from chestnuts to apples to pears to plums, and I've even got a few peaches in here as well. Now, I don't just have fruit trees. I've got some native shrubs in here as well that I've also got protected, and those are flourishing in here as well. So kind of first and foremost, I want to explain to you guys the tree kit, the tree protection kit that I'm using and why I'm using it. Now, this tree kit is fairly simple. It comes with a weed mat, a black plastic garbage bag type weed mat that you basically just slide over the stem of the tree and then tack it down in all 4 corners. And it's going to come with a plastic, but it's perforated at the top so it can get wind flow, it can catch a little bit more sunlight, and that tree can breathe a little bit as well. But that's going to be a 6-foot plastic tube. Now with that weed mat, what it's forcing this tree to do is grow its roots out. So it's not just going down, it's not just growing down, it's growing out. The downward roots on these trees is going to be for more stabilization. When you get those heavy blowing winds, it's going to help that tree stabilize itself so it doesn't just blow over. But those tap roots that are going out, what those are doing is they're going to be harboring the majority of the nutrients that this tree is uptaking. And the reason for that is those lateral roots are going to be, majority of those roots are going to be in your topsoil. And as most of you guys know, the topsoil is where 95% of those nutrients in our ground are at. So with those lateral roots, they're going to be uptaking the majority of the water, the majority of the nutrients for those trees. So it's forcing that tree to grow out and spread those lateral roots real quickly and get them off to a really good start. And then the other thing that weed mat is going to do is, like it says in the name of it, is it's going to control the weeds right next to the base of that tree there. So it's going to keep it damp. It's going to force those lateral roots to grow out and start harboring nutrients where it's going to pull the majority of its nutrients out of, and then it's going to be suppressing that weed competition right next to the base of the tree there so it can start flourishing and get off to a really good start. Now, everybody kind of has their own opinion on it as far as a weed mat. You can use more of a mulch type mat that is actually going to break down and eventually decompose. Those work well also. I've used those in the past. And then you can go ahead and actually use regular mulch. So this is more of a weed mat that you're going to need to remove once that tree starts flourishing and gets up out of the tree tube and it's doing well. You're going to need to remove that, cut it away, and get rid of it. Whereas you could use just a regular mulch, and that's going to actually decompose, and whatever nutrients that are actually in that mulch is going to be feeding that tree that you're covering. So there's a few different options as far as a weed mat. This just came with the kit that I ordered, so simply I used that. Now the tree tube. This is a 6-foot tree tube, and it's got 3 different removable zip ties on this thing. So I can reuse these tree tubes as many times as I need to, as long as they don't get destroyed by, I don't even know what could destroy them. They're pretty sturdy, they're pretty heavy duty. But these are going to be reusable for as long as I can possibly use them for. So once these trees start to get to the size of that tree tube and start, pushing on them a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and remove them. I might actually at that point cage with some chicken wire around the base just so the bucks aren't going to rub these things, because I need these trees not only screening, but I need them actually producing. So it doesn't do me a whole lot of good if a buck comes through here and trashes all my trees and kills them off. So I might even take extra precaution once they grow out of these narrow tree tubes here, and I might actually cage them with fence posts just to make sure that these trees are healthy and they're going to survive and actually do what I want them to do in here. So those tubes are not only protecting those trees from browsing with the deer or the bucks rubbing them, but they're also keeping that tree humid. They're holding a lot of moisture and a lot of heat around the base of that tree. So that's just going to give it a lot better environment as far as that tree getting off to a good start throughout the growing season. It's going to regulate a lot of that heat. It's going to keep the environment the same, so that tree doesn't have to work too hard in the changing weather conditions, whether it be blowing super heavy winds or whether it gets a little bit cooler at nighttime. As we start getting into that early fall time frame, that's going to prolong its growing periods as long as possible. This tree right here to my left is actually a 2-year-old black ice plum, and as you guys can see, that's roughly 10 foot tall already. So it's been pretty amazing to watch these trees just take off. These fruit trees went through a first-year drought. I ended up watering them with 5-gallon buckets 2-3 times throughout the summer, and they still hung on and survived, and now they're flourishing. All my dogwoods in here that I've got in those 3-foot tubes, those are flourishing. They're actually getting nipped off a little bit, so we might have to look at getting those in a bigger tube as well. But all of these chestnuts that are on year 3, you know, these were trees that were maybe 1.5 to 2 feet tall max. So all of them are really starting to pop out of the tubes now. I got 2 down below. Those are just starting to pop out. This one's about 1.5 foot out. These 2 are still yet to pop out, and then that one in the middle is yet to pop out as well. But the apples and the peaches that I've got down below here, those are 3.5, 4 foot out of the tube already as well. A lot of my other peaches up here, apples up here, those are out of the tubes. So all of these trees are off to a really good start. They're doing well. One of the keys for these trees being so successful in here is just the sheer amount of sunlight that they're getting. They're getting sunlight all day long. They're not having to compete with a lot of other trees. And one of the things that I've been studying on recently is these black locust trees that I have starting to pop up here. They're a root suckering tree, and they pop, if you decide to cut a black locust down, you're going to realize that they just start popping up all over the place. And that's because that lateral root system that those black locusts spread out is going to throw a bunch of different sprouts off of it. So once you cut those trees during the dormant season, they're going to root sucker all over the place. So anywhere that tree had a root growing, it's going to throw a root sucker off of that. So I've actually got a few of these black locusts from cutting a tree down on the fence line here. I've got a flurry of them showing up right here. But the cool thing about that tree is it's a nitrogen fixer. So it's a soil amending tree. So basically what this tree is doing, and it's a similar concept to clover and growing that with a brassica, because the clover is fixing nitrogen and the brassica is pulling that nitrogen. So you're using a 1-2 punch here, and it's feeding the other. So the clover is fixing that nitrogen, the brassica is using it. And it's no different with these black locust trees feeding nitrogen to my fruit trees. So I've actually allowed these black locusts to just kind of start coming in here, and then once they get too tall and start maybe shading out some of my fruit trees here, I'll go ahead and I'll cut them back. But this is really cool because it's the whole natural environment of things at work. It's feeding these trees, and as you guys can see, all of them are doing excellent, you know, from 1.5 to 2 foot saplings, and now they're 8, 9, 10 feet tall even. So I credit a lot of that exponential growth to this whole system that's starting to go on here. Fixing that nitrogen into the soil here, amending that soil, making it better and better and better with those black locusts, and then feeding my fruit trees and them flourishing here for me. But I kind of want to go over the concept as far as why these trees are here. Now, this is that habitat restoration area that I've been talking about for probably 1.5 years now. Some of you guys have seen it, some of you guys haven't, some of the new followers on the channel. But basically what we've done here is this is about 1 acre area, maybe a little bit bigger, but all it was up to about 2 years ago was old overgrown pasture. We ran beef cattle through here, and we haven't had cattle for a couple of years. But at the same time, we fenced off behind these trees, so now we can run cattle again as well. But what I'm doing here is this is basically wasted acreage on the farm. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make this great habitat again. I wanted to remove all the cool season grasses in here. I wanted to create something that these deer and the wildlife on the farm can actually use and benefit from. So what I did is I understood that, okay, the house is fairly close to this location. So first and foremost, we need a screen. And now I've got screening with switchgrass in here, but that's not tall enough. So I wanted a canopy tree, and I wanted mid-story trees to screen off all the activity from the farm and the house. And what I did is I planted those chestnut trees on my upper half. So those are my canopy trees. And now at the same time, I've got my shorter, more dwarf-like trees planted on the lower half. And those are the apples, the peaches, the plums. So basically, I created a screen, a wall with these trees. I've got a canopy tree, I've got a mid-level tree, and then at the same time, I've got these native shrubs in the dogwoods here. And I've got all of these kind of staggered here. So we're basically gonna be making a wall walking right up here to an eventual stand location in this corner. And now, at the same time, I've got a new 1/3 of an acre food plot that I just established in here, and it's just getting a soil builder blend, but combining all of these different habitat strategies with the food plot, with that thick switchgrass that's excellent throughout that late fall time period and then into the winter months for the smaller wildlife, the rabbits, the squirrels, the turkeys, the pheasants. That's covering their aspect of things. The fruit trees are producing not only a good screen for deer and good edge habitat through here, but also they're providing that food value. So with those chestnuts, I've got August, September, October, November, and even December dropping chestnuts here. So all of these trees are bred specifically to have a specific month that they drop their nuts. So by planting a variety of different time frames with those nuts dropping, we're creating an extremely consistent movement, because now we're not only attracting deer to follow this travel corridor during August or during September, but we're attracting them all year long because there's always going to be a fruit dropping tree here. So something that's pretty cool about the way that they're breeding these trees nowadays, having those specific drop times so we can use these fruit trees as a hunting tool, not just a wildlife tool, right? These are making the hunting on the farm that much more consistent and predictable, because we are attracting those deer not just in one month and then not in the next, but we're attracting them every single month throughout the hunting season. So this is always a highly attractive travel corridor that these deer are gonna follow. So pretty cool setup that I've got going on here. Like I said, I'm really excited for these fruit trees to start producing some mass in here. Like I said, I've got a soil builder blend in that food plot. We burned off a lot of this switchgrass last year to clear up the thatch layer and really spark that stuff off as well. We added 20, 30 more dogwoods in here this spring. I had 60 or 70 of them this spring that I put in the ground. And at the same time, I've got new chestnuts that came in. So I planted another row separating that switchgrass from the food plot on top of it. So basically I've got this edge habitat coming all the way up here, because like I said last year, these deer are already being trained to use this edge habitat here when we go from fruit trees and that screen to a little bit of an herbaceous warm season grass weed combination down in here, and then we go down to the actual timber about 45 yards down the hill here. So really cool setup that I've got going on here. I'm excited to continue to bring you guys along with it. I'll get some shots of all these trees so you guys can see how well they're actually doing. But this is just one of those scenarios where you can completely alter the way the deer are using this side of the farm. Like, this was unused ground besides at dark, but now I can look out off the deck in those evening hours here, and I can see does and fawns and even bucks here sometimes before this is even screened off entirely. So we're really, really ramping up this side of the farm. It looks excellent so far, and I'll keep you guys updated on how this progresses in the years to come.